Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Astrologer Podcast. This is Deb McBride, and I am recording this from lovely Escazú, Costa Rica, where it is a beautiful Sunday afternoon, and I believe the beginning of the dry season. The sky is blue, and the sun is shining, and it's reflecting on the garden, and it's just simply gorgeous. Today is Sunday, the 8th of December in the year 2024. And we have a lot to talk about. So, just as a reminder, this is your last chance. These are your last chances. That this Tuesday, the 10th of December, I am giving my Look at 2025 lecture, and I would love for you to come. Join me. It will be 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It's called the Liminal Labyrinth, and it is all about next year and the energies that will be present for us and the major shifts and changes that we will be experiencing next year, because lots of planets are shifting out of where they've been for a long time and moving into something else somewhere else. So a lot of changing energies, and this is why I called it the Liminal Labyrinth, because we are navigating through this space of temporary energies. Saturn will be in Pisces, then it'll be in Aries. Neptune will be in Pisces, and it'll be in Aries. Gemini, Uranus is going to Gemini. We're going to be needing to navigate the liminal space, this in-between place next year. So join me. It's only $55. You can book this through my website. You can go to Astrologer's Thoughts, which is at the bottom of the page. The website is thegoldenastrologer.com. And if you go to Astrologer's Thoughts, it'll take you to the blog listing. The first blog that's there talks about the Liminal Labyrinth, okay? And you can just click the link there. You can also go to my book online page, because it's listed there among other things where you can book a session as well. You can also just contact me, info@thegoldenastrologer.com or deb@debmcbride.com, and I'll send you the link to join. And I'm usually putting it in stories. It might not be in stories on Instagram right now because I have to post it. So I think the story from yesterday is finished. So it's going to be a great time, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Join me. And there will be a recording. So if you can't make it, you can always purchase it and then listen to it later, right? So Mars is retrograde. Mars is retrograde. And I, of course, have a Mars retrograde story. So Mars went retrograde later on Friday afternoon, the 6th, as I spoke about last week. And Mars went retrograde 6:33 p.m. Eastern Time, but it was 5:33 here. And shortly after that, my friend Monica, who lives on my property, my dear friends and family here, said, hey, do you want to go to San Joaquin de Flores, which is where we go every year for Christmas? And it's a Christmas village, so it's all lit up with beautiful decorations. People have decorated their houses. If you saw my Instagram yesterday, I posted it. It's just adorable. And the whole street, people are selling things, empanadas, churros, different things to eat, right? So it's lovely. They also sell rompope. Rompope is eggnog with rum. And it's all homemade. So people at various stands, they're selling rompope with arroz con leche, which is rice pudding, and with cinnamon and stuff. So there's various stands where they have bottles of rompope. They have cups you can buy. They sell it to you for the season. They've homemade it, and they're proud to share it with you. And all sorts of snacks and goodies and things. Not necessarily the healthiest things. But we go there and have rompope and arroz con leche, and it's very sweet and lovely. And then we usually go to dinner afterwards. But I'm not a drinker, so when I buy the rompope in a little cup, I drink a little bit of it, and then I take the rest home. And so the other night, we went there, and by the time we got there, it was 2 hours after Mars retrograde started. And we're in the first little room. There's like people's the front of their houses, they've got it decorated, and they're little abuelitas, little grandmothers at tables selling the treats and rompope and all sorts of stuff. And so I'm in this one room with Giselle and Monica and Piero, and I think Alejandro was there, but he wasn't there in the moment. And we were standing there, talking to each other. And I went to buy a cup of rompope. I didn't buy a whole bottle, just a cup, and for like 1,000 colones. So I went up to the little abuelitas at the table, and I was going to go pay them. But, all of a sudden, we were interrupted by this youngish woman that came in. She's probably 30, no more than 30. She comes bursting in with a cup of rompope in her hand, and she starts yelling at the little abuelitas at the table who are sitting behind the table. And in this festive event, and there's all people everywhere, and it's crowded. It's a Friday evening. This woman is going on. She's very heated, and she starts yelling at them. And at first, I thought she was just excited about something. And then I realized she was angry, and she was getting angrier, and she's yelling at them. And I turned to Giselle, because my Spanish is not good, and because she was talking so fast. And I said, "What's going on here?" And she says to me, "Oh, she's complaining. She's telling them that they gave her daughter rompope, and now she had to go to the hospital." And I'm like, "What?" She's the mother. What is she talking about? And the women are saying, "No, no, no." They're saying, "No, we didn't do that. No." So she's insisting. And, I was trying to pay for my cup. And next thing I hear is something like a splat. And I look up, and the woman is gone. But the little abuelita was covered in rompope. The woman threw her rompope at this woman. And I'm standing there stunned. And I'm looking at Monica. I'm looking at Giselle. And we're like, what the heck just happened? And she's got it on her face, on her neck, on her sweater. She had to take her sweater off. She's standing there saying, they didn't do anything wrong. They didn't know what was going on. And this woman was kind of angry. She was very angry and crazy, and she just threw the rompope at her. So I paid for my rompope and stepped back with my friends, and I said, "You know what? You never start a war under a Mars retrograde, because you won't win." and I said, like, this is the first evidence of Mars retrograde. Like, okay, someone's angry, furious, and they're feeling the Mars in this delightful little Christmas celebration, which is very Leo. It's like everybody's partying and the kids are there, and she's complaining about her kid. And Monica says to me, if her kid's in the hospital, why isn't she at the hospital? Which is a very good point. So we didn't know the whole backstory, but we've and it was so insane, and it was so out of character for here and for there. And at one point, I just looked at them, and I burst out hysterical laughing, not to offend anybody, but oh my God. It was like so evident it was Mars retrograde to me. So yes, this was the first evidence of Mars retrograde. Mars retrograde is here, folks. It's here till the 23rd of February. So watch your kids. Make sure they're not drinking rompope. Or if we actually thought she was lying. Later on, we were talking about it in the whole scenario and everything. It's like, why wasn't she keeping an eye on her kid? And if the kid's in the hospital, then why isn't she there with the kid? Because clearly it had just happened if she was there and screaming. And and these little abuelitas don't give alcohol to children. So it was also the station of Neptune. Neptune went direct on Saturday at 6:43 p.m., which is lies and fantasies and illusions and delusions, and sometimes the truth comes out because Mercury's retrograde and Neptune just went direct. So we got a lot of astrology going on in this little scenario in San Joaquin de Flores, this quiet little area. So yes, that's my first Mars retrograde story. There's more to come. I'm sure. So here we are in the new week. We're moving into this new week, and some big stuff is also happening. First of all, Venus has gone into Aquarius, and she conjunct Pluto. She went into Aquarius shortly after Mars. It was a few hours later. It was 1:13 a.m. Saturday a.m. And then she conjunct Pluto at 9:08 a.m. And this is the first time an inner planet has conjunct Pluto since Pluto has now taken up complete residence in Aquarius for the next 20 years. They conjunct earlier this year, but this is a different experience. This is now Pluto is at it's moved into its house, moved in home, is there, unpacked its bags, and now Venus comes and greets Pluto. Now, of course, Venus and Pluto are very dramatic when they're together, which could have also contributed to the drama that I experienced on Friday evening. But but when Venus and Pluto meet, there is often, some knowledge about Plutonian things. So Venus and Pluto together in Aquarius, it could be groups and communities, it could be triangles in groups and communities, it could be some sort of breakthrough around the areas of money and power and relationships. And so I had a breakthrough on Friday afternoon while I was in a class, and it was how we were talking about that money and sex and power are all connected. And we were listening to the mentor speak about these things, and she really brought in a person to coach them live, and she talked to this person, talking about money, but she really asked her about her relationship. And when she was asking her details about her relationship, it was clear that the whole empowerment and financial thing were deeply rooted in some of the dynamics in her relationship. And we really began to see and come to life in front of us how they are interrelated. And, oh yeah, those three are all connected. They are deeply rooted. And so for me, Venus-Pluto this time was a deep realization of how power dynamics and relationship dynamics and money energetics are all connected and interwoven. And how we behave in our relationships has a lot to do with our financial things going on. So this was a very deep thing to process. And I definitely gained a lot of knowledge during that Venus-Pluto experience. And really, I was watching some replays of it yesterday, and I'm like, yes, I get it. This is powerful and profound. Really amazing. So I hope that you had some great breakthrough with Venus-Pluto, because it can be a breakthrough. When the outer planets are working with the inner planets, we do want to encourage breakthroughs, and we do want to encourage realizations and shifting and movement in our lives, a real transformation. So this was a big aha moment for me. It was an epiphany. And, those three terms are often thrown around in many ways together, but to watch the dynamics of it and to see the interacting energies was really a special and incredible thing. So Venus, in her movement in Aquarius, of course, the opposite sign is Leo, and who's in Leo? Mars. And Venus is going to talk to Mars on Thursday the 12th. Venus is going to oppose Mars at 5:46 a.m. Eastern Time, Thursday morning, the 12th. And she is going to have a conversation with a retrograde Mars. So, a lot going on. I believe, and since we know that Mars and Pluto have been in a dynamic and in a dance, I believe that we are on the brink of some very deep energetics around our relationships, recognizing and working with the energetics around our relationships, around Venus, around Mars, around Pluto. They are all being intertwined with Pluto, because Venus was with Pluto and Mars was with Pluto, and now Venus and Mars are going to come talk to each other and say, hey, what did Pluto say to you? Well, let me tell you, what did Pluto say to you? So they have each had conversations with Pluto in the last few weeks, and we are now having them talk to one another. So the masculine and the feminine, and this is not the male and female, it's the masculine and the feminine, the polarities are in a dance, and they are in a conversation. And now she's already in Aquarius. She's already moved a couple degrees into Aquarius, and she's clearly already opposite Mars. But the experience that we're going to maybe have another aha moment, because we're resonating on that frequency of aha moments, is that on the 12th, on Thursday, there's going to be this opposition between them. That doesn't mean they're going to fight. That doesn't mean they're going to get into a brawl. That means that there is an opposition and a clarity around the dynamics in each of our relationships, in the polarities of our own self. So everybody's got Venus and everybody's got Mars in their chart. Everybody has both planets, and we sometimes express Mars more than Venus, or Venus more than Mars. You may say, well, I really feel like I'm dealing with Mercury on a regular basis because your mind is thinking or something. But obviously, there is always the dynamics and the energetics of the masculine and the feminine. And when we start to look at them, it inevitably spells things out, the way we assert ourselves, the way we receive. And I've been in this class, and we're talking a lot about receiving. And receiving is very much in the feminine. But money is also a female energy. Going out and asserting yourself to make money, that's masculine. But these two planets represent the polarities. It isn't necessarily true that a woman is going to feel more the Venus than she does the Mars. She may experience more of her Mars. It depends on what she's got in her chart. And the same thing for men. Just because they have, they're men and they're of the male gender, this isn't about gender. This is about polarity, So it can manifest itself if you've got an afflicted Venus. Well, how do women treat you in your life? If you have an afflicted Mars, how do men treat you in your life? No matter who you are. And so also, how are you asserting yourself? How are you stepping forward with the masculine energy? Like going out to work, going and getting a job, asserting yourself in the world, your confidence, all those things we talk about Mars, So Mars is retrograde, as we know, and Mars is asking us to take a step back and look at these dynamics. Look at the way we assert ourselves. Look at our passions, our desires, these things that we are dealing with on a regular basis. What do you desire? What are you passionate about? What lights your fire? But the whole Venus-Mars opposition, which does not happen very often, and it depends on their transits, etc. The whole Venus-Mars opposition really pulls in the balance of the polarities. And we are learning a whole lot about that now. And we're going to continue to, because Mars is going to be in this retrograde till the 23rd of February, as I've said before, and I'll say again. And then Venus, a few days later, is going to go retrograde herself. So Mars will be direct, and then Venus goes retrograde just a few days later. So we're not getting off the hook so easily. You think, good, Mars is finished. No, then we start Venus. And then Venus is going to be retrograde for 6 weeks. So that brings us to the middle of April. And so we have a lot of work to do around these polarities and around how we use them and work with this in our lives. And the experience of Venus is going to meet up with Saturn. She's done Pluto already. She's going to meet up with Saturn in mid-January in Pisces. And then she's going to go into her retrograde in Aries later at the beginning of March. She's already slowing down. You can see she's already slowing down between January and March. It takes her all that time to get to Aries. She's in Aries. She goes a few degrees. She turns around and then will go backwards and greet Saturn again. And that time when she goes direct, she'll be on Saturn. She will be spending a week with Saturn. Okay? This is very important. So once we see Venus go into Pisces, we're going, and that's not for a little while yet. She is just in Aquarius. We're going to start really feeling those dynamics of Venus and Saturn and what that is going to reveal to us. And, she's going to be involved with Neptune as well. So this is really going to be an interesting ride through the polarities, through exploring the polarities of the masculine and the feminine, and where we balance those when they're in balance, we're in good shape. And the energetics of that. Now, if you want more information about this, you can buy my masterclass I gave about a year and a half ago called How to Be a Goddess in a Masculine World. And it talks a lot about the domination of masculinity, the masculine polarity in our world, and what that's like, and how to, balance polarities in an environment that's like that. So I talk all about that. It's a masterclass. It was a great group that night. We had people really going deep, and it was really amazing. So it's available on my website. You can go to thegoldenastrologer.com, go to book online, and you will find How to Be a Goddess in a Masculine World. And this is a conversation worth having because it affects us in many, many ways, especially our money. And money just doesn't come from working our butts off and working really hard until we're exhausted. Money comes from having the right energetic alignment with it. And that involves a lot of awareness, a lot of consciousness, a lot of watching our own behavior and having squeaky clean energy. All of this is where the actual understanding of how to make money and bring more money in and be a magnet for money. That's how we make money, how we bring it in. Okay, so the balance of the polarity is going to be very interesting. Watch your relationships Thursday, see what happens, see if anything that you uncovered over these last few days with Venus and Pluto has some relevance on Thursday when Venus and Mars have a conversation. I bet they are connected. Venus is busy this week because she's going to sextile Mercury, or Mercury is going to sextile Venus, 2:45 a.m. Friday the 13th. And that is Eastern time. It'll be earlier in the West Coast. But Venus and Mercury, after she talks to Mars, she's going to talk to Mercury. So there's a thought process around this. There's an understanding, especially since Mercury is still retrograde at that point. And Mercury is going to help us intellectually process these things and this information we're receiving when Venus and Mars meet up. And Mercury will go direct next Sunday. So next Sunday, Mercury is finally going to go to direct. And it's been a wacky, wild Mercury and Sagittarius ride. It is going to happen at 3:56 Eastern time next Sunday. So around the time I will be doing my podcast, Mercury will be going direct. And we're going to start to see the results of what Mercury retrograde was like. It'll be about 6.5 degrees of Sagittarius. And then we'll be done with Mercury retrograde for 2024. The next one will be later in 2025. So Mercury's going direct. So this is good. This is still a time this week to review, revise, revisit, reconnect, and do some contemplation around a lot of the other things that are happening. Venus and Mars and Pluto and, Mars retrograde. This all brings up a whole other dynamic that we are considering and contemplating while Mercury is retrograde. And then there is a full moon next Sunday, the 15th. So when we meet again on this podcast, there will be a lot of action that Sunday. It's a full moon at 23 degrees Gemini, 53 minutes, and it will occur in the wee hours. It's 4:02 a.m. Eastern time, which means you'll get to look at it on Saturday night and probably Sunday night. It'll be moving on, but it will still be full. And so this is at the end, towards end of the sign of Gemini and Sagittarius. So it doesn't just affect those planets, the sun and the moon. It's actually going to affect Venus, which will be at 9 degrees Aquarius. And anything about 8-9 degrees fixed is going to feel the effects of this full moon. And it's going to be a trigger. So watch out for that. Saturday night, Sunday morning. If you've got planets around 8-9 degrees fixed, that's Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, Leo, you're going to feel this. And we are going to feel it with that Venus. Venus is going to get triggered by this. To a lesser degree, the Mars retrograde. Mars will be at 5. It will have moved back 1 degree, but it's not as exact Venus will be more exact. But it's again, though, it's bringing up the theme of the polarities. So this is a big theme right now, and as we go forward into these months ahead. So, the dynamics, the masculine, the feminine, pay attention to that. We want to pay attention to that. The moon will go into Cancer 2:21 p.m. next Sunday. So after, the moon is full and then it moves along, it's going to go into the sign of Cancer in the afternoon. And we are also having some aspects from the sun in Sagittarius trining Chiron on Tuesday the 10th, and that's at 12:49 p.m. So that is a certain level of enlightenment around where we would maybe feel wounded, or where we have been wounded, or wounds that we are working out. Sun to Chiron is very healing. And the sun's light, when it passes over planets in our chart, when we have a progression from the sun, it usually does mean it's a very healing experience. So we're getting healed about something in that moment. And sun trining Chiron is a softer aspect. It's a flowing aspect. And it gives us some enlightenment without being in pain all over again, right? Chiron is still retrograde itself, and it will be direct on December 29th. So it's still a good time, again, stepping back, getting some enlightenment, things that we need to work out. The other thing is that where Chiron's positioned right now is the sun's exaltation point. And the experience of Chiron and the sun together, like the sun is giving a nod from Sagittarius to Chiron and Aries and saying, yeah, I see you, I know where you are. And so I think this could be a significant healing that could happen. And whenever we step back, like Mars is asking us to do, and then Venus is going to ask us to do, whenever we step back and do some internal exploration, it usually is healing. And it's kind of an odd time of year. Of course, at the end of the year, you look back where you've been all year. What have I done? What have I accomplished? Ooh, that was difficult. Boy, that back 6 months ago, that was a rough patch. Or, we reflect. We reflect on the year. But we're going into the new year with Mars retrograde. And this happened. This happened 2 years ago. It was turning direct sooner than it is this time. It was more retrograde in the year before than it was in the new year that time. So we're having more of the retrograde happen in the new year. And so we aren't starting fresh in 2025. We're not. And this is one of the points I'm going to make on my lecture on Tuesday night, is how to navigate some of this and what we need to be aware of. Because inevitably, it's, hey, what are your New Year's resolutions? Hey, I'm going to the gym. Hey, I'm doing this. And fine, but we aren't starting something new. We're not going to start something new. And this is a really important point as we go to 2025. There's not newness immediately. There isn't. There's retrograde, and there's a retrograde inner planet. You can't, the outer planets, they spend half the year in retrograde. So when we look at Uranus, it'll still be retrograde. We can't worry about it. It's always like this. It's when the inner planets are retrograde, and that would be Mercury and Mars and Venus, they create something more personal for us, and they are also called the personal planets. They're more personal in that we need to do some more personal homework and personal reflection, and they bring that to us. But we're not getting out of this. The themes of this year are going with us into next year, and it's not a clean break from 2024. It's an extended version, So this is why it's all relative, when you look at New Year versus old year, and people celebrate the new year and it's a fresh start. If you feel that you've got a 2024 hangover in 2025, this is why. So we're going to talk about this on Tuesday night. There's going to be a lot going on next year, a lot of retrograde stuff we have to contend with, and we'll be discussing all of this. So I invite you again, join me. It's going to be great. And in the meantime, I hope you have a beautiful week ahead. By the next time I see you, Mercury will be going direct. We will have a full moon. So all of these lovely things, and we'll talk more about them on Sunday the 15th. But if you would like a session in the meantime, go to thegoldenastrologer.com, click book online. And if you get a session with me the rest of this month, you will get a free mini scan from New Vision. I will do that scan for you. If you sign up for expansion mentoring, you will get a free astrological session. So all of this is still available the rest of this year. And so take advantage of them while they're available. You can get a free astrology session with me in addition to joining me in expansion mentoring. If you'd like more information about that, just contact me, deb@debmcbride.com, info@thegoldenastrologer.com. Have a beautiful week, the last week of Mercury retrograde. Gratitude to everyone who listens regularly and joins me. Thank you so much. Blessings to all of you. Have a beautiful week.